Hello, back again. Demon Daddies. There it is. Chapter 26. Thick brown slime. Fantastical tales were Dad's speciality. However, this one he struggled to believe. With some prompting from Raj, Alfie told his dad the whole story. The dentist's visit to the school, the special mummy's toothpaste that burned through stone, the tooth snatching happening every night, being chased by the entire town, and finally having all his teeth taken out. Dad's disbelief turned to anger when Alfie took out the false teeth and held them up to the candlelight. "When I get my hands on that dentist," shouted Dad before he was plunged into a coughing and splutting fit. Holding his dad, Alfie declared, "This is why I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to upset you." Alfie's father looked deep into his son's eyes. "I am more upset you didn't tell me, son. We're a team, aren't we, you and me?" Alfie nodded. He was afraid his voice would crack with emotion if he spoke. "You're my pup, my little pup," continued Dad, "and I would do anything for my little pup. I would die for you if I had to." A tear welled in Alfie's eye. Even Raj was blubbing, and he had a big old blow on his nose with his sleeve. Soon the pair had helped Dad into his chair, and he wheeled himself into the next room to inspect the final and most gruesome piece of the puzzle, the eyeball. Thankfully, by now it had stopped twitching and wriggling. However, it had left a trail of thick brown slime all over the sheet where it had travelled. The three faces peered in to inspect it by candlelight. There they are, all inspecting that little eyeball. "The strangest thing is," began Alfie, "I swear I was awake all night. So how could the tooth have been switched with this without me knowing?" Dad thought long and hard before replying. "You must have nodded off at some point, son." "No," said the boy. "Alfie was absolutely sure I didn't, and I kept checking under the pillow all night. In fact, I checked just before Raj came in and it was still there." "You shut the window behind me," added Raj. "Just after that freezing gust of wind," Alfie thought aloud. "Yes," agreed Raj. He inspected the window, and look, it's still locked. Then all three fell deadly silent. Out of the gloom, Dad whispered, "Then whoever or whatever did this must still be in the bungalow." None of them moved. "In fact, it could still be in this room," he whispered. Three sets of eyes darted around in the dark. If this was true, where could it be hiding? The room was cramped. There were only a couple of pieces of furniture. It was not ideal for a game of hide and seek. With his eyes, Dad indicated the old wooden wardrobe standing in the corner of the room. Alfie started to tiptoe over it, holding the candle. His body weight landed on a loose floorboard and it creaked loudly. Dad put his finger up to his lips and Alfie rebalanced his weight quickly. With two more silent steps, he had his hand on the wardrobe door. Dad nodded his head gently to indicate that his son should open it. The suspense was too much for Raj, who was already cowering behind Dad's wheelchair, and now had closed his eyes. The boy pulled the handles sharply. Something flew towards him. His anorak. The sleeve must have been caught in the door. After taking a breath, Alfie pushed his few items of clothing aside. But there was nothing evil lurking in the cupboard. Aside from an old unwashed football sock, that is. It had been lying there so long it now had yellow and green mould growing on it. Throughout, Raj's eyes remained tightly shut, his face grimacing in fear. Dad tugged at the newsagent's arm and he startled like a wind horse, leaping into the air as his whole body contorted in fright. "Ah!" he neighed. "Shh!" shushed Dad. With his eyes, he pointed to the bed. Raj pointed to himself and assumed an expression which said, "Me?" Dad nodded, with an expression which said, "Yes, you." The newsagent shook his head. He put his hands together in prayer, begging Dad for it not to have to be him. Alfie rolled his eyes. He stepped forward and gently pushed the cowardly newsagent aside. Pulling up the sheet, Alfie bent down with a candle in his hand to look underneath the bed. It was dark under there. and even with the candlelight he squinted as he tried to make out anything in the shadows. Like most boys, Alfie never bothered to clean under his bed, so there were long forgotten pieces of Lego and a pair of dirty old underpants loitering there. All looked ghostly grey, smothered in a thick covering of dust. Alfie sighed. Again, there seemed to be nothing evil hiding there. Then, under the bed, out of the darkness, 2 eyes opened and fixed the boy with a deathly stare. "Ah!" cried Alfie. The owner of those eyes then blew Alfie's candle out. Now the room was all but pitch black. A shadowy figure rose from under the bed without stopping to unlock the window. It flew straight through it with a deafening roar. It moved at such speed that the shards of smashed glass exploded out of the room. Alfie hurried to the window frame. He needed to catch a glimpse of whoever or whatever had been hiding under his bed. The boy looked out into the dark night. Something rocketed down the road and then soared up and up into the sky. Higher and higher it rose until it flew through the clouds. Soon, all that was left behind was a trail of black smoke. Alfie closed his eyes. Surely they were deceiving him. Opening his eyes again, he saw that the trail was still there. This was no nightmare. This was real. Alfie had no option. He had to believe. There it is. Who do you think it could be? Any ideas? Chapter 27, A Case of the Willies. PC Plank didn't look best pleased to be dragged out of his warm, comfy bed in the middle of the night. The policeman still had his stripy pyjamas on, but he had to put his police cap to try and give himself some sense of authority. With a torch, he examined the smashed window in Alfie's bedroom. He traced the beam of the torch around the frame before shining it on the shards of glass on the floor. Finally, the policeman announced, "This window's been smashed." Alfie rolled his eyes. "Yes, we've established that." Plank shone the torch right into the boy's eyes. "Less of your lips, sunshine. You are lucky I don't arrest you. Littering, wasting police time, not stopping when requested by an officer of the law." Dad was becoming increasingly frustrated with the policeman. His breathing was growing more and more uneven. "Listen, Constable, something very serious happened here tonight. Someone, or something," chimed in the newsagent. "Thank you, Raj," spluttered Dad. "Or something came into my son's bedroom in the middle of the night and left that revolting thing under his pillow." PC Plank shone his torch on the eyeball, still glistening on the bed. He hummed. "Just the one eyeball, is it?" "What?" Alfie replied, utterly bemused by the line of questioning. "Well, they normally come in pairs, don't they?" Plank defending himself. "2 would be worse, but I suppose 1 is still bad." "Yes, Plank, an eyeball under your pillow is bad, very bad," replied Dad, before breaking into a terrible coughing fit. "Seeing it gave me an awful case of the willies," added Raj. "Gabs and I told you this was happening," said Alfie. "Now you've seen it with your own eyes. I am no detective, but I know that an eyeball is a really important piece of evidence. Shouldn't you be taking it away and examining it for fingerprints or DNA? "Yes, yes," replied PC Plank, "but no. "No?" said Alfie. "You see, I've run out of my special evidence bags. Me mum used the last one tonight for me sandwiches in case I got peckish." "Oh, for goodness sake," said Dad. The policeman produced the sandwiches from his pyjama pocket. "Jam," he announced, before taking a bite of one. "Mum makes a very nice jam sandwich. Takes the crusts off for me. And all." A large saliva-sodden crumbs dropped from his mouth onto the eyeball. Said Plank as he munched away. "Have you got any cling film in the house I can wrap the eyeball in?" "No," replied the boy angrily. The police hummed again. "Let me think," said Plank as he finished his sandwich. "I've got it. Can you post it to me?" "What?" said Dad between coughs, unable to quite believe how stupid this man was. "Yes, pop it in a jiffy bag, slap a second-class stamp on it. I should get it by Monday." "That'll be too late," cried Alfie. "How many times do you need to be told?" Normally about 3 or 4 at least for it to really get through, replied the policeman without irony. Look, every night kids are putting their teeth under the pillows and waking up to something horrible like this, pleaded the boy. You have to do something. All right, protested PC Plank, a first-class stamp. It was a relief when the useless policeman finally left. Raj went home soon after. He insisted on calling himself a taxi for the 1-minute ride back to his flat above the shop. He was far too spooked to walk home alone. Dad and Alfie cuddled up in bed together. Not only had the boy been scared out of his wits, his father had too. But even with his dad's arms round him, Alfie couldn't sleep a wink that night. His mind was racing, replaying the events in his head over and over again. Was that freezing gust of wind really the tooth snatcher entering his room? And those eyes under the bed? There was no denying it. Alfie had seen those eyes before, those black eyes. Now he had to confront the owner. Soon dawn was breaking, the sunlight burning through the holes in the curtains. As Dad snored, Alfie gently lifted his father's heavy arm off him and tiptoed silently back to his room. Everything in there was covered in a silvery frost. With the window smashed, the room had become freezing cold. As quickly as he could, Alfie dressed and popped his false teeth back in. Looking out of the window frame as he zipped up his coat, there was no sound. Not even the birds were singing yet. It was still very early, and the boy knew that this was his chance. Last night had been all too much for his dad's health. Raj's nerves made him a liability, and as for Gabs, this was all now way too dangerous for him to want to involve the little girl. He was going to have to face this monster alone. How exciting. Okay, see you later.